Thank you for asking this question because I wonder what is it that some white people feel that they are being divided from when they hear me talking about dismantling white supremacy culture and explaining how history has established systemic racism in the United States that causes ongoing harm to this day. Because, in my view, white supremacy culture and systemic racism are problems that need to be acknowledged, understood, addressed, and fixed. And the way to help do that is to raise awareness and educate people on how to be part of the solution. And we all have it within us to be part of the solution, but white people, more than any other group, are empowered with that ability. So that leads me to believe that the white people who feel that my content is creating division feel divided because they do not want to be part of the solution. And I do have a problem with people who, through their words and actions, have demonstrated that they willingly uphold white supremacy culture and systemic racism. However, as far as racial prejudice goes, I do not associate white supremacy culture with all white people, nor do I assume that all white people willingly uphold white supremacy culture. Also, white people absolutely can be the victims of bigotry and racial prejudice, and it is never right for anybody to be racially prejudiced against an entire group. However, white people do not experience racism. Racism is power plus prejudice, and non-white people do not have the power to be racist towards white people. Another thing is that white people who understand everything that I have just explained do not need me to clarify that I am not racist towards white people because they know that already. And people who are willfully ignorant, it doesn't matter how many times I explain or what I answer, they will always accuse me of being racist. But as far as inclusion goes, I am more than happy to celebrate anybody who is willing to celebrate everybody. White people attempting to rebrand white rage by co-opting the term black fatigue as though it's a phenomena they actually experience but only recently found the language to talk about is both dystopianly weird and tragically on brand. The copying, the whitewashing, the centering themselves by playing victim. But what's ironically telling about it is that the concept of racial battle fatigue is not new. It's been around for decades, and the term black fatigue has been used by black people for quite a while. Mary Frances Winters wrote a book that came out in 2020 titled Black Fatigue, and it describes the mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion that black people experience because of systemic racism. Now, notice how black people didn't call that white fatigue, because the purpose is not to assign blame in order to justify bad behavior. It is called black fatigue because it is a harm that black people experience, and so their focus is on addressing and combating that harm. Whereas when white people talk about experiencing black fatigue, they are not talking about a harm that they experience because of black people or anybody else. They are literally telling on their own inability to live in society with black people. And that's not new either. That's a pathology that has existed for hundreds of years, but call it what it is, white rage. I find that a good way to help people who have a different lived experience than you exercise empathy for the struggles that you face that they may not be familiar with is to help them understand. And I was hoping that you could help me understand what anti-white racism looks like. Can you tell me about how you don't know where your ancestors came from because they were kidnapped and enslaved? Or how you don't know what languages they spoke, what spiritual practices they had, or what traditional knowledge that should have been your birthright was lost, not because they were allowed to and wanted to assimilate, but because their enslavers or residential schools forced them to assimilate. Can you tell me about how your ancestors had explosives tied to them while they were building the United States railroads, and then as a show of appreciation, they were excluded from society for nearly 60 years? And could you tell me about the hundreds of towns that were destroyed, like the Black towns and Chinatowns and Japan towns, all destroyed by the same demographic? Can you tell me about the children who were unalived because they whistled at a woman or because they floated in a lake a little too far past the segregation line? And can you tell me how it was for your parents and your grandparents to be United States citizens who were put in internment camps on United States soil? Can you tell me how it was for your family to live in the back of their store because people who look like you were not allowed to purchase or rent homes? And could you tell me how it was for your parents and for you to shed blood, to be treated as human, as equal, and to be allowed to simply share the same space as other people? Can you tell me about the conversations that you have to have with your children about police interactions? And could you tell me about how your mother and your sisters and your daughters are concerned about having children because of lack of equitable access to healthcare, because doctors were told that people who look like you can't feel pain? Can you tell me how it feels to know that your ancestors lived here for thousands of years, but when you try to come here, you and your children are put in cages? And can you tell me how it felt when a few years ago the president entertained having people who look like you expelled from the country again? Can you tell me what anti-white racism looks like beyond having your feelings hurt, feeling uncomfortable, and having your sense of superiority challenged? And when you're done telling me what anti-white racism feels like for you, could you please tell me why you're not fighting to end racism forever? First of all, no racial group is a monolith. There are Asians who study hard, there are Asians who don't. There are black people who study hard, and there are black people who don't. And second of all, can we take a step back and recognize how ridiculous it is to compare racial groups in a country that have completely different backgrounds and histories? But in the US, among high selectivity immigrants, African immigrants actually have a higher education level than East Asian immigrants, and in particular Nigerian immigrants have a higher education level than Chinese and South Korean immigrants. So it has nothing to do with Asian or black. But do you know why we started comparing Asians and black people in the United States? It's because in the 1950s and 60s, when the United States was engaging in military actions in Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, bringing democracy to Asia and fighting against communism, as the civil rights movement gained in momentum and attention, people around the world started wondering, with all of the racism and injustice in the United States, who are Americans to go to any other country and tell them how to be? So the United States said, no, Chinese Americans and Japanese Americans are being great. You can look, they're not protesting. They're quiet, they're working hard, they're living their lives, and they're doing fine. The problem is the loud, angry, protesting black people. And do you notice how the model minority myth only ever goes in one direction to make black people look bad? Because let's take the model Asian who studies really hard. Do you know who else they're studying much harder than? White people. In 2021, among 18 to 24-year-olds, college enrollment among Asian Americans was 60%, among white people it was 38%, and among black people it was 37%. So among white and black people it was about the same. But struggling white people do not get told you would be doing better if you were more like Asian Americans with their strong family values and their emphasis on academics. As a matter of fact, when Asians get compared to white people, Asian success is an indication that Asians are stealing opportunities and resources from white people and that we don't belong here.
Hi guys, welcome once again to my YouTube channel. I am Michelle, and if you're watching me for the first time, kindly don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and even comment. So guys, in today's clip, of which it is it is a very interesting topic, and don't forget that I will really want to know and see your opinions on the comment section. And this Asian lady is really speaking about Black Lives Matters a lot, and that is making us black people so proud, and those people who are in those foreign countries, East African countries, that are experiencing systemic racism. And this lady is trying to educate us on something that if you're not keen, you will not understand what she's really trying to say and what she's trying to educate us. This lady is trying to tell us that systemic racism is something that is growing and growing. And we all know systemic racism has a lot of things in it. And one of the things that systemic racism has in it is self-reinforcement, because when someone has self-reinforcement, it means that that person is practicing racism because it benefits him or herself. It benefits whatever he's doing. It benefits whatever that person is actually doing. That person is practicing it because that person is benefiting from it. That person is practicing systemic self-reinforcement racism simply because he feels that it favors him or her. That's why this person is practicing self-reinforcement. Another thing is that systemic racism is in schools, in jobs, in houses, in different places, and it is taught in institutions, which it tells us that it is something that we learn while we are still growing, and it's something that we come out and start practicing, and it is something that it is being encouraged even in schools, even in jobs, even in our environment. It is being encouraged because it is being taught in institutions. Another thing is that systemic racism is something that has brought a lot of people to brought us back to the historical roots. Systemic racism, we found it there, and because we found it there, we're still practicing it. Because we found our ancestors doing it, we're still practicing it. It's high time we start treating people equally, because these people who started this, we fought and we won. We fought and we won over this fight. We are now learned people. We are in another century. We should not be doing the things that our ancestors were doing. We should not be following the footsteps of our ancestors simply because they wanted it to be like that. We should not follow whatever they were doing because that's what they were wanted, and that's what it will make them feel proud of us. No, systemic racism must stop, because it affects a lot of people. It affects a lot of innocent people. Another thing is disparities in income. People are being treated according to their salary, according to the place they are living. People are being treated according to their way of living, according to the amount of money they have. And we all know, in those foreign countries or in the United States, black people do not get good job opportunities, which will always lead to racism, because they never get good job opportunities, they never get good education, because these people are being isolated, these people are being kept aside so that they can go to their own different schools, and white people go to their own schools, which tells us that these white people are always getting good opportunities than the black people. The white people are getting good job opportunities than the white people. Black are getting poor housing, while white people are getting good housing, which it will always bring us back to the roots where we came from, was something that we fought over, something that we are supposed to be past that. It will be always taking us back there, taking back as years ago, the years that we fought for independence, the years that we fought over segregation, the years that we fought over racism. It's high time we stand up and stop racism. And I'm proud because this Asian lady is really speaking out, and she is telling us the truth that many people will not want to hear, but she is telling us the truth, and we should listen to what this lady is trying to educate us. Something that not everybody can do, because she is standing boldly and speaking something that she feels like it is supposed to be done. And we all know some Asians also experience racism. Some experience racism, some don't. Some might have been favored, some might be on the bad side of experiencing racism. And this lady is speaking out of what she feels, what she feels it's right. She just wants us to stop whatever we are doing as Africans, as white Americans and hold each other's hands, and many Asians stands with Black Lives Matter, because many blacks black people are experiencing microaggression, stereotyping, and exclusion, which is something that we should stop. People are suffering. These black people have suffered enough, and it's high time we just put ourselves. White people should put themselves in the black people's shoes, because if it were them, they would not have sustained what the black people have sustained. These people are really strong. These people are patient. These people have the heart and hope that one day everything will be okay. And you white people should give these people the hope they are looking for. You should allow them, give them the chance, because they have really fought for the longest time. They have fought for this fight. For the longest time they have tried to prove themselves. For the longest time they are trying to prove something different that you are not seeing. Give them a chance. Give us the chance, and you will see something different, because once we are united, we will build a strong world. So guys, if it was for the first time you're coming across my video, kindly don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to leave your opinions on the comment section, because I'm really eager. I'm waiting for those comments. I want to see your thoughts about this video, about what that lady has said on the comment section. Please don't forget to leave that comment, and don't forget to click that subscribe button. Bye.